Today, I'm going to be talking about the 20 leaked characters that will be added to Marvel Rivals at some point. The characters will be placed in what I believe is their role, and I'll explain why when we get to the characters. Here is a quick rundown of every character that has been leaked so far and will be discussed more in depth. And we're going to start with the Vanguards, which are going to also be highlighted in red. And they can either heal themselves or just block incoming damage to protect their team. And it's going to be Venom, Thor, Mr. Fantastic, Captain America, and The Thing. Next, we're going to move on to damage, which is green, which is going to be Psylocke, which has been in a teaser, Squirrel Girl, Human Torch, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Black Widow, Winter Soldier, Blade, Wolverine, and Iron Fist. Strategist, which is blue, and they can heal others and themselves. And first, we're going to talk about Adam Warlock, which has been shown in trailers, Cloak and Dagger, Ultron, Jeff the Landshark, and Invisible Woman. Okay, let's begin. Starting with Venom, he's been shown in trailers itself. He has an ability where he can literally just wall crawl and just run up the wall. He is also a Vanguard, so he's going to be the tank of this game, able to block incoming damage, and he's also able to heal himself. He's able to unleash tentacles forward to attack enemies, which is a similar ability to what Groot has in the game. He has another ability called Frenzied Arrival, which is dash to the target location from a certain height. Upon landing, damage nearby enemies, knocking them back towards the landing point. So he seems like a character that's going to have some sort of dive kit already. Cellular Corrosion, unleash tentacles to slow enemies within reach, and enemies unable to break free in time will suffer damage. Then he has Venom Swain, launch webbing forward, allowing for a singular swing in the desired direction. Symbiotic Resilience, generate bonus health against damage. The lower Venom's health, the greater the bonus health generated. His ult is Feast of the Abyss, burrow underground for free movement after a duration or by pressing LMC to devour enemies above and generate bonus health. His team-up ability is Symbiote Bond. Venom shares a part of his symbiotes with Spider-Man or Penny Parker, activating their symbiote abilities. Spider-Man or Penny Parker can convert this symbiote into explosive spikes that inflict harm on nearby enemies and relentlessly drive them back. All of these abilities can actually be shown in the trailer that was released, I think, 2 weeks ago. It's pretty simple. It seems like Venom himself is going to be some sort of dive tank that's similar to in vein of, like, if we were to give this game an Overwatch example to, like, Winston, he's going to be that kind. But his ult also seems similar to Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, the Chomper, which had an ability that was just able to immediately eat someone, knocking them out from any kind of res. So I think that's his ult, is to basically cancel out the res, which Adam Warlock has an ability for that, which we'll get to when we talk to other strategists. And there's the biography too. If you want to read that, you can. Basically, it summarizes the story as to what's going on with Venom in the lore. Basically, he has to determine if he's going to fight Null or not, and that's really about it. Moving on to 4, basically in this lore, he was sent and banished away from Loki, so Loki now rules Asgard, and that's why it has a different name in the game. And basically 4 has been banished to an unknown dimension where we're really not sure what happened, but it's probably hell. His abilities. So this is going to get very confusing, and try to understand to the best of your ability. He has an ability called 4 Force. After using any ability, grants 1 point of 4 Force, such as casting Mjolnir Bash, which Mjolnir Bash is his basic ability. Wield Mjolnir to strike enemies. When awakened, 4 can launch lightning arc waves to deal damage. Hammer throw Mjolnir forward that then returns. Lightning Realm, summon lightning to restore 4 Force based on the number of enemies hit. Storm Surge, hold a spin Mjolnir before dashing forward and knocking back enemies. Awakening Rune, consume 4 Force to enter the awakened state, granting bonus health and enhancing Mjolnir Bash. His ult is God of Thunder. He soars upwards and smites the ground after charging for a duration, inflicting damage on enemies within range. He actually has 2 team-up abilities, one which is actually his original team-up, and one that's just Hela's. Voltaic Union, 4 infuses 4 Force into Storm or Captain America, granting them an electrifying enhancement. Ragnarok Rebirth, when Hela lands a final hit in defeating an enemy, she can instantly resurrect Loki or Thor in the respawn phase. If Loki or Thor is alive and the a crow will fly to him, granting them blue armor. Basically, Thor is going to be a unique character that is going to have some sort of like charge up ability, or rather, in this way, Thor is going to have a unique ability of having this system or point system rather of 4 4s that's going to allow him to boost his stats and basically his health and damage, it seems, just so that he has more abilities on top of that. Because it looks like he's able to throw a lightning arc wave, dealing damage when he's in the awakened state, which I think is based off of 4 4s. So the more 4 4s you're gaining by just beating up enemies, probably you're going to gain access to new abilities like using lightning and being able to actually enter that awakened state of granting bonus health and enhancing Mjolnir Bash. On to the next one, Mr. Fantastic, which is a Vanguard, which is actually an awesome idea and a huge surprise. That's why I have the image here too, because Mr. Fantastic is stretchy skinny guy, right? Doesn't make any sense. Boom, comic image of big guy. Okay, let's get to the abilities. Actually, first let's talk about the description. Basically it just talks about like who he is. Descriptions are different from biographies. Biographies are just like the lore. Descriptions are just kind of like a Marvel wiki. It's a very quick description as to who the character is. So even if you don't know who it is and you've never learned anything about Marvel, there's something for you too. So some characters have that in the leaks. His abilities are elastic strength. Skills generate elasticity, boosting attack power. Reaching full elasticity triggers an inflated state that restores health and boosts even more damage. Elastic Punch. Stretch out a forward punch to attack enemies. It's going to be similar to Venom and Groot. Rubber Grip. Extend arms forward to entangle an enemy. Then press LMC to select and yank another enemy, knocking them up to one another. So basically, you're going to have the stretchy power of grabbing one enemy and another one and just going, yeah, man, you guys are both just Junkrat trapped now, and smacking them together and doing probably a lot of damage. I doubt it will kill, and I'm very curious how easy it will to actually land that ability and actually have 2 enemies. We'll see. Flexible Elongation. Select a target and dash towards them, dealing damage to enemies and granting bonus health to allies. That almost seems like a ball, like roll in general from Overwatch, where they're just smacking into a bunch of people. They're probably going to get knocked up. Some damage is going to be dealt, but it also heals your teammates. On top of that, he has Reflexive Rubber. Stretch body to absorb damage before launching stored damage in the targeted direction. His ult is Brainiac Bounce, leap upward and smash the ground, knocking up enemies within range. Upon hitting an enemy, leap again up to 6 times. So you're just going to be slamming, like probably ball slam 7 times in a row. And it's probably going to do a lot of damage. We'll see. I'm very curious how this is going to work for characters that fly in the air. Will this ult actually affect them at all or not? They also have suggested combos, so Unleash Elastic Punch on nearby enemies, and snare lone enemies with Rubber Grip. Reflect high damage with Reflexive Rubber when under heavy attack, and protect allies or finish off enemies in pair with Flexible Elongation. The only reason why I think Mr. Fantastic is a Vanguard is because of the leaks in the suggested combo section that just say protecting your allies, and anything to do with protecting your team, specifically the word protect, is to deal with tanks or vanguards in that situation, because that's what the role is supposed to do, is to basically block damage from the other teammates that are damage or strategists. Captain America, we actually have really nothing on him at all. There's a description that just sums up who he is. There's a biography, and in this one, basically, here's the huge drum roll, is that Captain America's from 2099. This isn't gonna be your average Captain America. It's still Steve Rogers, don't get me wrong. It's just gonna be someone that's from 2099, in which I want to theory craft for a second and say that his abilities, if he is a Vanguard, I think his shield isn't gonna just be a normal shield, and it might actually be like a Rhine shield, or even a Brig shield, where it's almost that holographic kind of futuristic tech. That's what I think is going to happen. About the Captain America section, Captain America in leaks has a diving strike ability, which is very similar to the Black Widow diving strike ability and the Venom diving strike ability. Venom did have a diving strike, but I think it's a placeholder name for an ability where it's used as a combo to help, and it's more so whenever you are diving enemies from a high height, it allows you to combo with another ability to follow up. The only thing that we really do know is that there's spray paints, and he's already in the game, and there's a design in the game, and it looks like the 2099 version. The only thing is that he has his team up ability. Thor infuses Force into Storm or Captain America, granting them an electrifying enhancement. So he gets some sort of team up ability already with Thor. Moving on to the final Vanguard, which has the least amount of information. So we have to do a lot of theory crafting to figure this out, is the Thing. And basically the only way we can actually find out about him being a Vanguard is actually through his description. Benjamin J. Grimm is unquestionably the rock star of any team he's on. Always at the forefront of the fight, the Thing shields his allies with his unbreakable form, selflessly fending off any harm that comes their way. So right away, they talk about him being in the front of the fight, which a lot of tanks are always in the front, or they're doing some sort of dive. The Thing shields his allies, so he has some sort of ability that's allowed to... He probably has some sort of ram block or doom block that's able to basically just absorb all of that damage and kind of just refute it from any of his teammates. So it seems like he's going to be a Vanguard. With him not really having any abilities leaked or revealed, it seems like his character might be a long ways out. Starting with damage, which is going to be green, we have Psylocke, which was actually kind of hinted at in a teaser recently, about 2 to 3 weeks ago. In the teaser itself, you see a pink butterfly, which is reminiscent, or a reference rather, to Psylocke, who always has a pink butterfly floating around her. Okay, with Psylocke, we have the description. The psychic warrior known as Psy has the mutant ability to conjure a variety of weapons with the power of her mind. Gracefully gliding across the battlefield, this trained ninja can shatter the enemy's defenses with a single thought. So basically, it seems like she's going to be some sort of dive character that's just going to... Or maybe she's a tank buster that's just able to break up the team and really do a ton of damage with her psychic abilities and her weapons themselves. The only thing else we really do know about her is her team-up ability, which is Limbo Shortcut, which is also in tandem with Magic, where Magic opens a portal, and it just so happens that Psylocke can also use that portal. But besides that, there's really not been anything else leaked about the character, and it seems like this character is coming out very soon. So we might actually see this character come out during the beta. Okay, now the Squirrel Girl! Now we're on the Squirrel Girl. Her biography is basically she's with her best friend, and she ends up in New York, where New York is basically ravaged by a bunch of vampires, and she's helping Iron Man and Reed Richards and Black Panther and everyone stop Dracula. But her abilities are, she shoots Burst Acorn, shoot bouncing burst acorns, Squirrel Blockade, launch an acorn to unleash squirrel guards, imprisoning the first hit enemy. Tail Bounce, rocket upwards with a bounce of her tail. Mammal Bond, reload burst acorns and can use an ability without cooldown once in a short duration. Her ult is Unbeatable Squirrel Tsunami. Summon a horde of squirrels to charge forward, dealing damage while bouncing against structures. Her team-up ability is Mammalian Bond. Squirrel Girl summons a squirrel for Rocket Raccoon. While the squirrel is on Rocket Raccoon, he can cast each of his abilities once at 0 cost and refresh his weapon magazine. I said to a friend basically that Squirrel Girl would just be one more step Junkrat or more steps Junkrat, because she has some sort of bouncing burst acorn ability, so it sounds literally just like the left click of Junkrat. She's able to imprison someone, so basically the trap of Junkrat, and she has an ability to bounce herself upwards. And on top of that, she has another ability that allows her cooldowns to be on a shorter duration. So she's basically just able to spam a bunch of explosives at you, exploding acorns, and if she hits you, you're now trapped, and she does the same thing and then bounces away. just like what Junkrat does, where he spams a bunch of grenades in your face that bounce everywhere. He traps you, laughs really quickly with that hotkey emote. Blast, 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 boom! Bounces away. She's gonna do the same thing. She's probably gonna be similar to Junkrat. Now we're on to the Human Torch. Basically, he's doing the same thing Squirrel Girl is doing. He's also fighting Dracula in New York. His abilities are Fire Cluster, launch forward a splittable fireball, Burning Soar, hold space to soar rapidly upwards, Plasma Body, hold L shift to enter a state of accelerated ascent, Blazing Blast, launch a fireball to create a flaming field at the targeted area, Flaming Meteor, dive towards the ground dealing damage to the enemies and detonating any flame fields hit, Pyro Prison, connect flame fields to form a firewall that deals continuous burning damage to enemies. His ult is Supernova, explode with cosmic fire to deal damage to enemies within range. Upon skill activation, all flame fields will transform into flame tornadoes, dealing extra damage. He also has a team-up ability, which is Storming Ignition. Storm can consume one of Human Torch's fire tornadoes into her ultimate to ignite her hurricane. Likewise, Human Torch can turn Storm's hurricane into a fiery hurricane with his ultimate, which will then enlarge and intensify any of his fire tornadoes caught in its path. I think Human Torch is actually going to be one of the most unique characters, where he's just going to be flying around very fast, and he's able to set up these almost like fireball traps. And I think he's just going to be one of those characters that's going to control the map itself and control where the enemies can actually go. So he's going to force enemies to go one route versus the other because he set up a flame field, just dove right through it, set it all on fire. And then he's also just able to spam the Pharah ability of just fireball, fireball, just launching basically rockets at people. I feel like this character will probably be the best in the game and will probably be OP. And if not him, it's probably going to be for our next character, which is Hawkeye. That's right. I'm saying Hawkeye might be one of the best characters. Let me explain. Hawkeye's biography is actually about him leaving the Avengers, becoming Ronin, tracking down the Winter Soldier and saving him, and then rejoining the Avengers. His abilities are Skyward Leap, perform a double jump in the direction of movement. Sounds like Hanzo. His Archer's Focus, aim at an enemy to improve focus, enhancing the damage inflicted by Piercing Arrow. Piercing Arrows, shoot a powerful arrow. Blast Arrow, shoot 3 explosive arrows. Hypersonic Arrow, shoot a hypersonic arrow dealing additional damage to enemies in its path. Crescent Slash, perform a frontal slash with a katana, launching hit enemies into the air. Hunter's Sight, capture after images of enemies in his view. Damage dealt to an after image is transferred to the corresponding enemy. This is most likely his passive ability. His ult is Ronin Slash, swing a Wakizashi to strike frontal enemies, deflecting all incoming projectiles. He also has a team-up ability, which is Allied Agents. Hawkeye can share his Hunter's Sight with Black Widow, enabling her to catch sight of and damage after images of enemies. Hawkeye is basically Hanzo. Best way to put it. And then he has Genji abilities on top of that. He is a combination of Hawkeye and Ronin too. And I think that's what the devs were trying to go for. It's really cool to have some kind of character that has all of these bow abilities, and then he's able to do some crazy stuff up close. So that's why I think he could be really OP in the right hands, where if you're someone that can literally hit your shots, like a Hanzo player, then you're not going to have problems, because if someone comes to you point blank, you're just going to whip out a katana and start beating them to death. So everyone's favorite character that people have wanted in the Marvel Rivals Discord, Moon Knight. Moon Knight's biography is actually very different from any others, and I actually want to talk about it really quickly. Moon Knight has actually joined the battle against an apocalyptic enemy in ancient Thebes. It sounds like they're kind of hinting at Apocalypse. They actually used the lore in Marvel Rivals to hint at other characters. They actually did this with Spider-Man having Morbius and Blade, and even actually Scarlet Witch mentioning that she needs to get Moon Knight to help with Dracula in New York. Moving on to Moon Knight's abilities, we have Crescent Dart. Unleash Crescent Darts forward that can bounce between enemies and onks. We have Moonblade, launch forward a Moonblade that can bounce between enemies and onks. An Onk Siphon, fire an Onk to reveal and stun invisible enemies within range. It probably has some sort of other ability on top of that, or it's just to use your Crescent Darts and Moonblades to just reflect off of stuff. So he seems like he's gonna be some kind of like Ricochet character. Lunar Kinesis, Crescent Darts and Moonblades can bounce between enemies and onks. Lunar Chain, launch a frontal grappling hook that pulls Moon Knight towards it. Night Glider, hold space to glide. Rising Leap, perform a double jump. Lunar Aura will reveal and stun nearby invisible enemies within its radius. This is Moon Knight's passive, most likely. His ult is Age of Khonshu. Khonshu bombards enemies with his talons and reveals and stuns invisible enemies within range. Most likely, I feel this ult is going to be similar to Black Panther's ult, where you're going to see some sort of god, and in this case, Khonshu pop out and probably do a crazy amount of damage, stun the enemies, and then go. Moon Knight also has a team-up ability, which is Lunar Force. Cloak and Dagger can inject light and dark energy into Moon Knight or Blade to create a light and dark realm where Moon Knight or Blade can become invisible. Okay, now we're on to Black Widow. Her biography is that she's actually just been working with the Red Room this whole time, and she actually uses super soldier serum to actually make herself live a lot longer and survive until 2099 basically, or longer than that, because she's around until 2099 still, and she's basically in the future. Her abilities are rapid fire, unleash a barrage of bullets with the electromagnetic rifle. So we got a Widowmaker character, just to let you know. Straight shooter, activates the electromagnetic rifle's aim down sights to line up a damage shot with high accuracy. Infra detector, swap the next bullet for an infra detector, revealing enemy positions in its area for a short duration. So that's the one ability that Hanzo didn't have, or one ability that Hawkeye didn't have that was similar to Hanzo. So, boom. Basically, every ability that Hanzo has is in this game. Edge Dancer, dash in the direction of movement, propel upward upon hitting an enemy or a wall. Diving Strike, when Edge Dancer is used and Black Widow is aloft, she can activate it again to unleash the accumulated energy, damaging and stunning nearby enemies. Diving Strike is also the hinted ability that Captain America supposedly has, which would make sense because it's just, if you power up and do a bunch of damage and you have a charge, you can just activate it and it damages and stuns nearby enemies. That seems like a simple ability that anyone could have. She also has Line Dash, fire a Widow's line that propels Black Widow towards the targeted direct destination. So Black Widow is most similar to Widowmaker. Her ult is Electroplasma Explosion. Shoot a cloud of high energy plasma forward, creating a lingering field that slows and damages enemies caught inside of it. A charge of Electroplasma Explosion deals more damage and covers a larger area. Black Widow also has a team-up, which is Allied Agents. Hawkeye can share his Hunter's Sight with Black Widow, enabling her to catch sight of and damage after images of enemies. Okay, we're on to the Winter Soldier, which there's actually not a lot hinted at. His description just tells you who he is. Bucky Barnes' biography just tells you that he was Captain America's sidekick and that he was captured at a hinted map or a leaked map, which is Erebus base. His team-up ability is Ammo Overload. Rocket Raccoon throws an ammo overload device in the targeted direction. Upon entering the device's range, Punisher or Winter Soldier receives the buffs of infinite ammo and faster firing. Most likely going to be very similar to Punisher, except he's probably going to have abilities that deal with his metal arm, and that's what's going to make him different. Or his weapon of choice is probably going to be like a machine gun with a grenade launcher, so he's able to do like explosive damage or something like that. Moving on the Blade, there's your description itself. It just kind of hints to you as to what he does. It's nothing special. Notes, there's very little here. It seems he has two primary weapons that require you to switch between them. Like some other characters, they are Shotgun Blast and a Blade Slash. He also has another ability called Swift Strike. So he's most likely going to have a sword and a shotgun. His team up ability is Lunar Force. Cloak and Dagger can inject light and dark energy into Moon Knight or Blade to create a light and dark realm where Moon Knight or Blade can become invisible. Now, probably on to everyone's favorite mutant, Wolverine. His description: thanks to his regenerative healing factor and berserker rage, the centuries-old Logan can fight for the worst pain to go claw to claw with any foe. The Wolverine stands ready to shred through all obstacles in his way with his adamantium claws. His role is damage. His team-up ability is Limbo Shortcut. Magic opens a portal. Black Panther or Wolverine or Psylocke can use that portal. So here's the thing. I don't know with Wolverine if he's actually going to be damage or a Vanguard. And the only reason why I think he could be a Vanguard is because he's going to have this healing factor and Berserker Rage, which I think if he has some sort of boost ability and a healing ability, he could be some sort of dive or off tank, or off Vanguard, I guess is the term in this game, where he's going to probably be like Penny Parker, where he's not going to be able to be the main tank and try to do all the work, like how Doctor Strange and Magneto are your main tanks, and Groot is like a main tank because they're able to block so much damage and they have shields. I could see Wolverine being this character that's able to do a bunch of damage and dive in and then run out and just have this healing factor that's just going to make him basically survive anything. But then again, I also could see him just being a damage that just, it has this healing factor and he's just a glass cannon where he's able to heal a ton, do a bunch of damage, but like if you just pop him, he's dead. And like then his healing factor won't heal him at all. He's just dead. But I don't know. This is one of the exceptions. Okay, finally onto our final damage character, and it's Iron Fist. It's actually not Danny Rand, and it's actually Lin Lee. Notes: these all only have a description for now, with one slight exception. It would seem internally Iron Fist moves have placeholder names. There are references to Jeet Kune Do and Jeet Kune Do Ultimate, both of which seem to have unique effects, whether they are used on the ground or in midair. I'm very curious as to what this character could have. I've seen people in the Marvel Rivals Discord mention Doomfist-like abilities and stuff like that. I highly doubt that, and I could see more like Kung Fu melee abilities, that like maybe there's a flying kick ability in the air. I could see more, and this sounds very weird to say, like Genji dive moves or characters that are just something original is what I'm thinking for this character. Finally, we're moving on to the strategist. Our strategist section, we have Adam Warlock, which has actually been shown in a trailer with Venom. And his biography is actually him basically ending up the same place where Venom's going to actually end up, which is deciding what to do against Null, the symbiote god. His abilities are Quantum Magic, launch quantum energy to deal damage. Cosmic Cluster, gather quantum energy into a cluster and then swiftly launch it at the enemy. So basically has some sort of charge-up attack of just his main ability. Avatar Lifestream, target an ally for a bouncing stream of healing energy which also heals himself upon casting. Self-targets if no ally is selected. So probably like a Mercy Beam, where it just connects to someone right away, like that Mercy Heal. Soul Bond, unite the souls of allies in a bond, granting them healing over time and distributing damage taken across the bond. Pretty cool. Cocoon Revival, once his body perishes, Adam Warlock can freely move as a soul and reforge his body at any chosen spot. His ult is Karmic Revival, awaken the karma of allies to revive them. Allies revived have lower health, but enjoy a brief period of invincibility. So that's going to be busted. His team-up ability is Guardian Revival. Adam Warlock enhances the rebirth power of Star-Lord or Mantis, granting them the power of Cocoon Revival. This character is gonna be crazy compared to any of the other strategists. Yeah, Loki was really good in the alpha and stuff, but Adam Warlock is able to do quite a bit of damage with 2 damage abilities, and he's able to, it seems his healing is going to be able to mitigate a lot, and you're going to be able to distribute all of that damage and send it to all of your teammates at some point. So if you actually use his healing abilities correctly, you might not be taking any damage. And if you die, you literally can res yourself wherever you want. Only yourself. And then your ult, you're literally allowed to res your allies. They have low health, but they're invincible for a short time. So I'm curious if that invincibility is like 3 seconds, they come out and they're at 30 health, and so you could immediately pop them and they're over, or are they invincible and you can heal them? Because if you're able to heal them while they're invincible, it's gonna be rough for some people. And it's gonna be very difficult if you're a lower rank to actually get any kills if he's just popping his ult, resing all of his teammates, and now you have to refight a 6-man. But really cool character, and I'm definitely gonna play whenever the beta comes out. I'm actually very excited about this character and Venom. Moving on to Cloak and Dagger. Basically, they have a biography that's the same thing that everyone else has had, which is fighting Dracula in New York, because New York is under perpetual darkness. This character is also the most interesting. It looks like you literally swap between two characters. You have a Light Force Daggers, shoot a bouncing Light Force Dagger, inflicting damage on enemies while healing allies near the hit enemy. So that's really cool. So if you have an enemy that dives on top of someone, you can literally damage that enemy and it will be healing Venom, or it'll be healing Hulk or Spider-Man. So even if you accidentally miss and you hit the enemy right next to your teammate and you miss the heal, it's still going to heal them. Dagger Storm, send out a volley of Light Force Daggers. Light Explosion, throw a cluster of daggers to heal allies within range and grant them healing boost. Shadow's Embrace, switch to Cloak, dealing damage to nearby enemies. Light's Embrace, switch to Dagger, healing nearby allies. Dark Force Cloak, inflict continuous damage to an enemy, so probably some sort of Moira left click. Terror Cape, damage enemies within range and render them vulnerable. Dark Teleportation, create a Dark Force dimension area to shroud nearby allies around Cloak. Cloak in the area can move during this duration. This is a normal ability and this sounds awesome. You literally can't see what's going on and your whole team can just beat up people inside this dark zone that they have no clue what's happening. You have an ult. Your ult is Eternal Bond. Merge with Cloak and dash forward twice, healing allies and dealing damage to enemies along the path. This ult out of all of the leaked characters seems like the weakest. It's probably still going to be extremely really good. It could even be the best. It just seems weak for the fact that it's just you dash twice and it heals and does damage on that path. And there's characters like Penny Parker where her ult is literally running around creating a giant path of mines that blow up. So I don't know how I feel about this one. I do like the character's concept of being literally two different characters where you are a healer and you do damage. So this is a weird strategist where they're able to do a lot of damage too and a lot of healing on top of that. And it just, I'm very curious how players are actually going to balance out that Cloak and Dagger ratio. Cloak and Dagger also have a team-up ability called Lunar Force. Cloak and Dagger can inject light and dark energy into Moon Knight or Blade to create a light and dark realm where Moon Knight or Blade can become invisible, which is pretty cool. We're moving on to Ultron. Yeah, that's right. Ultron's a healer? Huh? His abilities are Encephalo Ray, unleash a burning energy beam, dynamic flight, fly quickly in the direction of movement and then enter a free flight mode. So similar to Iron Man, how his flying works in the alpha, it's probably going to be very similar to that. His algorithm correction, hold jump to fall slowly, so you can just kind of slowly drip back down to the ground. Imperative patch, command a giant drone to follow an ally, constantly healing allies in its radius with more healing for the designated ally. You can basically tell a big bot, hey man, go heal that guy. And if all your teammates are also just stacked up on that teammate, well then you don't have to worry about healing them. They'll just already be getting healed by that bot. So that's really good. Then he has Imperative Firewall. Summon drones to grant bonus health to allies within range, centered on himself and the ally marked by Imperative Patch. Ult, Rage of Ultron. Summon Ultron drones to fire Encephalo Rays, damaging enemies or healing allies. Basically, your robots are going to pull a Moira ult. A Moira ult is the exact same thing of just doing damage and healing in a big giant beam, but now instead it's your bots do it. So I'm very curious how the bots AI is going to work at actually healing and damaging enemies and teammates. So I'm very curious about that because it could be a really good ability or it could be the worst ability ever because the AI are just not locking on. But I could see it being where it's a Loki sort of, wherever you're looking, all of the robots' beams are going to shoot in that direction or point that direction. Moving on to Jeff the Landshark. Other abilities can be hinted at through the description. Most landsharks are vicious creatures of the deep, but not Jeff. This adorable and mischievous little landshark brings splashes of joy and healing to every battle. So that kind of gives away that he's a strategist, that healing. But if the tides turn, Jeff can morph into a ferocious beast, swallowing an army of foes in one giant gulp. It seems like he might have an ult that allows him to transform into a bigger shark and do a bunch of damage. Be this weird strategist that's also able to do a ton of damage, similar to Cloak and Dagger, or even Adam Warlock and even Ultron. His team up abilities are Chilling Charisma, Lunar Snow infuses ice energy into Namor or Jeff the Landshark, who then can tap into the ice energy to power up abilities at will. Another team up ability he has, which is We Are Groot. Jeff the Landshark or Rocket Raccoon can ride on Groot's shoulders, receiving damage reduction. I'm curious if he has like a bite ability, so he might just have Venom's ult where he's able to just chomp someone and immediately knock them off the board. We'll see when he comes out though. He's also hinted at in Mantis's lore piece where she escapes with Jeff the Landshark and Psylocke from the Collector. It's Invisible Woman, and there's really nothing to hint except in her description, the Invisible Woman is able to slip in and out of sight without a trace. Yippee, we got a Sombra Invisible character. No matter how intense the battle may be, Susan Richards always keeps her cool, conjuring up impenetrable force fields to protect herself and her team. We have a character that's going to be kind of a mix between Zarya, Sombra, and some sort of healer, who's going to be able to use bubbles to protect her team and heal them while they're in these bubbles, and she's also able to go invisible. So if Venom, Spider-Man, or Hulk dive her, she's able to just pop an invisibility and leave, is most likely what's going to happen. And then she can, if anyone gets dived on, she can just throw a shield on top of them. She's probably going to be a great counter to dive. That or it could be something entirely different. We'll see. Very excited to see all these characters actually show up in Marvel Rivals. And even just seeing these leaks is actually very inspiring to understand who's to come and actually see all these play styles actually play out. I'm very excited for all the Vanguards to actually happen. I really hope the thing is actually like Doomfist or some sort of very melee character that's entirely different from Hulk, because I don't want the Hulk and the thing to play very similar. That would be, I wouldn't like that. I hope the thing has a lot more movement or plays like Doomfist in some sort of way, but that's just my hopes. I'm even excited to see Mr. Fantastic, and whenever he comes out, that's my main, baby. But I'm even excited for the Squirrel Girl and Hawkeye, because those are characters that seem like they have abilities that are similar to Overwatch, and a lot of people are jumping from Overwatch to this game. And so I'm very excited to see what actually happens with this game. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe.